All right, finna go ahead and get it started. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast for today's episode 200. What are we on? 219. We're going to be discussing the 20 big misconceptions about dating. This is episode number 10 of my dating and attraction series. If you do not know about the first 9 episodes, I'll go ahead and give you some of the information that I've talked about already. First one was masculinity and femininity. Second one was why you suck with women, which is going to be the masculine frame. I also talked about female nature, unflattering truths about dating and attraction, attraction do's and don'ts, the biggest obstacles for men in dating, how to have great interactions with the women, and the most difficult battles that men face in this generation, as well with the one that I just had most recently done, how to build attraction as a man. Those are going to be some of the episodes that I do, and I have one more episode after this one. So if there's anything that you want me to talk about when it comes to attraction, feel free to leave it in the comments, or if there's something that you're struggling with, feel free to leave it in the comments. But if you do not know who I am, my name is Champ, and I help men build their foundation of masculinity. And I wanted to start with one thing that I found to be of the absolute importance, which is going to be dating. I feel like this is something that a lot of people are struggling with right now. So this is why I'm here to fulfill some information, hopefully at least guide you in the right direction if you're struggling. But other than that, yeah, we're gonna get into it, man. Make sure you follow me on Twitch, TikTok, Rumble, and on Spotify at Life of a Champ podcast on every single platform. And yeah, let's get into it, man. So big misconceptions about dating. There's going to be a few on here that you probably heard before, and there's going to be hopefully some on here that you have not heard before. But nonetheless, I do believe that there probably is going to be at least one thing that you've never thought of, and if you can at least take that, I think it'll be beneficial for sure. So yeah, tap into the live comments as well if you're watching live, and if you're rewatching this, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll go ahead and answer at some point in time. So getting into it, the biggest misconception about dating. One of the biggest misconceptions about dating that I have realized through my own dating experience, not only through my own dating experience, but also through the observations that I've had about other people, is the more time that you spend with women, the better off and the more attracted she's going to be to you. And this is something that I see so many men run into when it comes to their dating and attraction. When it comes to just their dating experiences in general, they have this way of being where they think that it's going to give them an advantageous position to be in the presence of the woman as much as they possibly can. And one thing that I want to be very, very clear with is you need to build some type of scarcity of time. You need to unconsciously make her have an understanding that your time is valuable. And if you're just giving her your time and seeing her as much as you possibly can, your time no longer becomes as valuable as it once was, right? So, with that being said, it sounds counterintuitive because if you really ask a woman, and if a woman's really attracted to you, she's going to want to see you a lot, right? And the point that you want to get to is where she wants to see you more than you're seeing her, right? And you want to see her more than what you're seeing her. That is how you have the proper attraction dynamic. Anything outside of that, the attraction dynamic can get fucked. I'm gonna be honest with you. So the more time, the big misconception is a lot of men, they have this perception that they need to spend more time with their woman, and they genuinely want to spend the time with the woman, right? Or that woman genuinely wants to spend time with that man. But the more time that the more time you give a woman, the more she's not going to value it as much as she possibly can. So that is going to be one of the biggest misconceptions that I've seen time and time again. And if you're a victim of this, I would say the best way to go ahead and implement this is to see a woman maybe max 3 times a week, 3 or 4 times a week. Shit, I would say even less. The less is better. Anything more than that, and you're gonna run into attraction issues, which are going to result in problems. Maybe you're not gonna want to see her that much. Maybe she's not gonna want to see you that much over time, right? Or maybe you're not going to enjoy or give her the best version of you that you possibly can, or maybe she's not going to enjoy or give you the best version of her that she can give you. And I think that's very, very important. And I feel like that's one thing that a lot of men truly get wrong. And then they wonder why they're running into a lot more problems, or they wonder why she's not as attracted. They're wondering why she doesn't want to see him as much as she once previously did. Or they're wondering themselves why they're not as attracted to this person, even though they really do enjoy their company, right? Those are all going to be things that tie into how much time you truly spend with the woman. And if you know me close, you know I preach this all the time. I preach this all the time. Getting into the next one. One of the biggest misconceptions that I've seen in dating in general, right? Through my own personal experiences and also through observing the experiences of others, is going to be the more options that you have or the more people that you talk to, the better, right? And in theory, you would think, you talk to a bunch of people, you get to really observe and you really get to hopefully make an informed decision, knowing that there is many different people that you can assess. And I hate to say it like that, but it's really not that analytical. But there's there's a lot of people that you can assess for a potential partner. So therefore, you're going to be hopefully in a better position to go ahead and make a good decision because you have looked and you have thought about the decision based off of your own amount of people that you have. But at the end of the day, one thing that I've seen is a lot of people run into this thing that I call option indecision, right? And option indecision is going to be essentially the concept that the more options that you have, the more indecisive you're going to be because if you choose one, that means you're sacrificing another, right? And here's the thing, if you can't fully get a grasp of all of those, so I'll say, for example, this is just one thing that I've observed, right? Let's just say a woman is on a dating app, right? And she has 15 to 20 guys that she can talk to. Maybe in general, most women are just going to talk to maybe like two or three guys max. Maybe some of them just even one, right? But a lot of those women, when they're trying to choose which men they want to genuinely talk to, they become indecisive because they just have so many options, right? And like I said, if you choose one, that means you're sacrificing another, and you get to the point where you might not choose any at all, or you might not choose as many as you possibly could because you don't know which one to choose, right? So you kind of get in this dilemma where you typically would think that having more options would work in your favor. When in reality, if you just had two or three options, then you can actually dedicate a lot more time and be a lot more decisive with who you actually want to spend time with and who you definitely do not. So the more options you have, it can work against you, right? Like I said, maybe if you have five, I'd say anything more than five, you're gonna get mixed up, man. You're gonna be lost in the sauce. I'm gonna say that, but yes, the more options you would typically think would work in your favor, it really doesn't work in your favor for dating, right? I've had times where I've been in the process of talking to like seven different women at the same time, and it's not as great and it's not as like ideal as a lot of men. Even men that don't, they don't really talk to women. They think that's an ideal. It's really not an ideal. If I'm gonna be honest with you, I've had such a better time where I'm talking to two or three women than as opposed to talking to seven, six, seven, eight women at one time. So highly, highly recommend to stick with two or three at a time. That's for sure. And here's the thing, even just one at a time is pretty cool, I'd say. But yeah, getting into the next one, another misconception, another big misconception that I see, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the last one that I had mentioned. A big misconception that I see within dating and attraction is this narrative that people believe that, especially a lot of men, especially men that don't necessarily sleep with a lot of women, they think sleeping with a lot of women is cool, and they put it on this pedestal. And there's a lot of men that obviously do sleep with a lot of women that kind of put this kind of still put it on a pedestal and kind of overvalue it, or they talk about it with the level of excitement that entices other men who either are in the process of doing that or who can't do that at all. They make it seem more enticing than what it truly is. And coming from a person who has slept with a decent amount of people, I would say it is not as cool as even what I once thought it was. It's not even as cool as I've seen other people view it as. Just because it's not necessarily something that you should be doing, right? We all intrinsically know that there's certain things we should do and certain things we shouldn't do. And the reason why in which we shouldn't do that is because you're damaging your soul. That's the way that I see it. You're damaging your soul. You're damaging a bunch of other women, right? Obviously, men like women with low body counts, and if she has a higher body count and you're adding to her higher body count, you're literally damaging psychologically and physically another person's wife and her ability to pair bond and her ability to actually build a strong attachment to somebody else. And in turn, you're probably going to have that happen to you, right? So I think that's very, very interesting, and people don't really talk about that enough. How it is, it is not as cool as you think it is. I'm gonna say that, and it's kind of. I'm sure there's gonna be some men that are gonna be like they're gonna be in disbelief about what I just said, and maybe they just haven't even tried it themselves. So yeah. All right, this is a good question right here. I'm gonna answer this question, then I'm gonna get back into it. How do I get women if I am fat and overvalue women? I don't have any options and I feel lonely. Any advice? I'm a new viewer. That is a good question. Well, you've just established the first part about it is you must establish your issues that you have, right? Everybody has issues. I've had plenty of issues. I still have some issues to this day. And those are your perceived weaknesses, right? With anything that I would recommend in life, you must go ahead and build up your weaknesses. You must turn them into strengths, or at least you need to turn them into some level of competence, right? So, for example, if you're overweight, I would highly recommend to make that something that is no longer a thing, right? Is it going to be hard? Yes, but is it going to be worth it for your own health, for your own longevity, for your own, your own self-confidence, which that's literally priceless. Self-confidence is literally priceless. Health and longevity, priceless, right? So, in order to reinstill some confidence and maybe get rid of some of the insecurity that you're mentioning, I would highly recommend to get that as and put that as a main priority for damn sure. Um, and overvaluing women, this is understanding. I feel like part of this is truly understanding who you are, right? And hopefully you've actually worked on yourself, right? If you've worked on yourself, you know that most women don't work on themselves, and hopefully that gives you kind of of a more of a foundation of what to truly believe in when it comes to either overvaluing, properly valuing, or undervaluing women, right? The only way that you're necessarily going to get the most ideal response, which I think is just properly valuing women for what they are, is understanding that truly if you work on yourself, there's not going to be another woman who's put in that same amount of work into themselves. And when meeting a woman, yes, she's attractive, but at the same time, she genuinely just hasn't put in as much work as you have. So why are you putting somebody on a pedestal who hasn't you wouldn't put another man who hasn't put in as much work on the same pedestal that you would put that woman on. And just because she's pretty doesn't mean she needs to be on a pedestal, because there's plenty of women who are very, very pretty who are still low quality. So that's what it is at the end of the day. And whenever I do approach, I get rejected often. Hey, at the end of the day, at least you're putting up shots. Because here's the thing: there's a lot of men who are attractive who aren't putting up shots at all. So even if you're insecure, the only way that you're going to get over that through approaching is just by constantly trying to approach. Still, build up your confidence by approaching. Build up your conversation skills by approaching, and then you're hopefully gonna be in a better spot. And what I'm saying is, it's not as simple and it's not as easy as I'm saying. I can say it simply, but it's not as easy as the implementation. But nonetheless, that is what it is. How do you get women, or how have you gotten them over time? A lot of that's going to be going out into the world, resisting dating apps and things like that. If you're not the most attractive, and I would recommend this for anybody, but if you're not the most attractive person in your own personal opinion, or if you don't see yourself as that attractive, get off dating apps for damn sure, right? Go up to women in real life and approach them, right? That's going to be your best bet. How do you get women, and how have you gotten them over time? Um, just talking, man. Just honestly, just talking. Sometimes I've had scenarios where I met them through work, and then that's the way in which I had interacted with them, or initially got to at least have some type of introduction. And then, if they were attracted to me, they gave me a certain look, they gave me a certain energy, and then I went ahead and tried to get the number or whatever. But I would highly recommend going to places. Another place that's, if you want to see attractive women, go to the gym. You'll have plenty of attractive women there if you're working on yourself. Hopefully, she's working on herself, and that's a decent spot to go ahead and approach as well. But moving on, I'm going to give you some more misconceptions about dating and attraction. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all for tapping in. All right, let me get to the next one. Getting into the next one, this is one that I see all too often, that men, whether they're conscious of this or not, they have a big misconception that women kind of like these nice guys, right? They listen too much to what women say about what they're truly attracted to. And when you get to learn and when you get to know women a lot more, you begin to understand that there is a gap in between what they say that they're attracted to and what they're actually attracted to, or rather, what they're attracted to and what they respond to, and what they say in which they would respond to, right? So, for example, women don't necessarily like nice guys, but they'll tell you, and they'll tell you and tell other people that's a type of man that they want. They want a man who's nice, who's going to do this, who's going to do this. And then you see the type of men that they actually go for. And those type of men are they're not necessarily the same men that they say that they want. They're more of the bad boys. Maybe they're more of the ones that are more defiant. Maybe they don't treat them as good as they say that they want to be treated. But for whatever reason, those men still end up in a favorable position, right? So that's something that I want to be very, very clear with is if you're trying to play this nice guy role, it's not going to work out as good as it could. And it's not going to work out as good as you think it should go. And that right there is one of the most humbling moments in the dating experience for a lot of men is they try to listen exactly to what women say. They go out in the world and try to act that out, and then they're wondering why women do not respond to that, even though that's exactly what they say. And it's because that's just not what they respond to, right? So if you want a woman to respond to you, I'm not saying do and be a bad person. When I say a bad boy, I'm not saying that. The way in which I perceive a bad boy in that certain instance is they're not afraid to be themselves. I feel like a lot of men when they're in this nice guy role, they they're kind of a filtered version of themselves, right? I feel like a lot of those men that are the bad boys, they're more honest, they're more upfront, they're more raw when it comes to their a way in which they would handle a woman. And some of those men that are trying to take that nice guy role, those bad boys do things that those nice guys would never think to do because they don't think it would work in their favor. When in reality, it actually would. So that's what I will say for sure. How do you go from Okay, how do you go from being a nice guy to an evil man or a bad guy? I don't necessarily think women like evil men or bad guys particularly. I think they like the man that has experience, and the way in which that manifests, for example, is the bad boy is kind of like it's just a little bit more defiant. It makes them think a little bit more, right? And it's not as predictable and practical as the nice guy. I think that's going to define the bad boy archetype, right? That's why women are this is a very very rare instance, but that's why women are drawn to the people that are like criminals and things like that. They have some type of draw to them. I'm not saying that's always the case with evil men or bad men, but at the same time, I think it's very, very interesting to observe that that is part of how women think, right? They want a guy who's a little bit more defiant, who's willing to break the rule. And when I say break the rule, I mean act in a way that isn't conventionally thought of, right? Or I'm gonna try to give you an example. For example, I'll just say this: a nice guy, if a woman asks for his opinion, right? Regardless of what she wears, how do I look? The nice guy's always going to say, "Oh, you look so beautiful. You look wonderful," right? But the bad boy is going to be like, "Yeah, this one's all right." Now that doesn't make him a bad person. He's just a more raw version and an honest version of himself, right? And I think that is the difference. That is the type of energy that women, whether they like to admit it or not, that's exactly what they want, right? And like I said, that's exactly what they respond to. How do I know that? Because I do it myself. I act that way, and I have learned to act just my rawest version of myself, and that is perceived as like more rebellious or more. I'm not gonna say bad. I wouldn't even consider it bad, but it's just different. It's not what they're used to, and if it's not what they're used to, then you can get into a different then you get into a different area of the woman's brain where it's just like, okay, well, this guy's gonna be like this, and this guy's gonna be like this. Why is he like this? Why is he not like every other man that I've talked to? And that makes them interested. Getting into the next one, and I'll respond to some of these comments real quick. This is going to be another one that's one of the most interesting ones of the entire podcast. All right, let me read some of these comments. Ain't that the truth? Be a man, act like you don't care. Oh yeah, there you go. So if women like bad guys aren't criminals considered evil. How does it? So does this mean I can be evil and the women will be like me more? Not necessarily. Like I said, I don't think women like bad. I don't think women like bad characters. I think women like it's like this. I think women's women's ultimate fantasy is this. It's the beauty and the beast. So for example, this is something that I've heard time and time again. I think it's very very interesting. They like the man that has the capacity for violence, right? The capacity for anger, right? But who has it under control. And that is the bad boy in essence. So like for example, they like men who are big and strong, but who are nice and gentle to them, right? They don't like the big and strong guy that's just gonna fucking get in a fight with any person just for any reason, right? That's dangerous, and that's not necessarily something that they're enticed into, right? But they're enticed to taming a beast. That is the woman's ultimate fantasy is how can I tame this guy? That's exactly what they think in their mind, right? And when I say tame, I mean like how can I civilize this guy? How can I make him a person who is a good man of character in a way in which he'll be the father of my children. That is exactly what women want. So I don't think being evil or being a criminal is going to be the route that you need to go to in order to attract women. I don't think that at all. But what I do think is you need to be a person who's capable of doing things but refuses to do them, right? Make the exception. So for example, right, one of these bad guy archetypes or bad boy archetypes, this is going to be the man who can sleep with a lot of women but doesn't, right? That is that is the bad boy. The bad boy can do those things, but he refuses and he decides to not do that. And that is that tame version that woman will see in you and be like, ah, I like that, right? Unconsciously or consciously, they're gonna respond better to guys. For example, right, the guy who can sleep with a lot of women versus the guy who can't sleep with a lot of women, right? They're gonna be more. They might not be. They'll sleep with the same amount of women, maybe once a month, right? But the bad guy who can sleep with a lot of women is gonna be so much more appealing as opposed to the guy who really can't get that many women. If that makes any sense, right? That is just an example of the bad boy versus the nice guy. But yeah, hopefully that makes some sense. Getting into the next one, this is one of the biggest misconceptions about. I'm gonna say this has got to be top three on my own personal list. One of the biggest misconceptions about dating and attraction is that women's sexual fantasies are all pure and wholesome. This is insane. When I had did some research and had my own personal experiences of this, this blew my fucking mind. I could not believe it. So, yes, I'm going to repeat that again. A misconception that men have is women's sexual fantasies are all pure and wholesome. That is not the case. That is not the case. I would say women's sexual fantasies are much darker than you think, right? And a lot of women will want this, but they will not say that they want this, right? And I'm gonna say, and like I said, if you take some offense or you don't agree, that's fine. I'm gonna give you some of the things in which women like, right? Through my own personal experience, through talking to women, through experiencing with women, through seeing other guys talk about their own experiences and things like that, right? Women like to be choked. Women like to be slapped. Some of them do. I'm not gonna say all women. I'm not gonna say all women. They like to be slapped. They like to be choked. They like to be tied up. They like all these things, right? It's not as wholesome and it's not as pure as you would think, right? Or pure as probably you would want. But at the end of the day, this is what all women like. I'm not gonna say okay. Now I'm not gonna say all women. This is what some women like, right? They like to be dominated. That's just what it is, right? They don't like the man that's gonna be like, oh, can I do this, or who's all timid or who's asking questions. They like the man who's gonna take the control and do whatever he pretty much wants to do. Obviously, with consent, of course, right? But yeah, that is one thing that I think is probably one of the biggest misconceptions is men, they kind of have this perception that women are very very fragile when it comes to that, and they want to be treated with delicate behaviors when it comes to just sex in general and everything like that. But I think it's interesting because we would not want to physically impose our will on a woman, of course, unless she wants it, right? But a lot of men that I've talked to, right, and a lot of women that I've been with, they really really yearn for this type of behavior out of men, or the men that they tell me that these women want these type of interactions with them. And I think that's interesting because it's not something you would conventionally think about, and maybe it would be something that you would maybe not even be fully comfortable with doing, but yet they exactly want that. So yeah, there you go, my man. There you go. That's exactly the right spirit, but make sure it's in a healthy manner. That's for damn sure. I like that spirit though. Good job, Ron. But yeah, moving into the next one. This is going to be another one, and I see all too many men do this, right? One of the biggest misconceptions about dating and attraction that men have, or that women have rather, is they have this perception that men want to be friends with them. And that's never the case. And we all know this as men, we know this. Some people say it, some people don't. But at the end of the day, if you're a man watching this, do you really want to be friends with a woman? Do you actually genuinely want to be friends with a woman? Or do you want something potentially more than that? And if you're being honest, and if most men are being honest, they want something more than just, oh, I want to be friends with her, right? Come on now, let's keep it. And a lot of men, this is what I'm talking about. A lot of men will settle for a friendship with an attractive woman in hopes of potentially sleeping with her in the future. And I would highly not recommend that. You never want to set up the dynamic where you're in the friend zone. This is a mistake all too many men make. Oh, I'm just going to be her friend, and eventually over time, if I do all these nice things, if I give her all these things, maybe she'll sleep with me. And I'll do all these things and say all these nice things and get all the brownie points that I possibly can, and one day they're going to sleep with me, right? Like, no, that's not how this works. That's not how this works at all. And that's just what it is. So I feel like a lot of people, they kind of, a lot of women, they think that that men want to be friends with them. In reality, that's not the case. They just want to sleep with you for the most part. And if you think about it, and if you ask most men, and if they're truly being honest, most men are not going to want to be with they're not going to want to be with women who are conventionally unattractive, right? Who are fat and ugly in their own perception, right? They don't want to be friends with women like that. When a man wants to be friends with a woman, that woman's typically going to be somebody that they're attracted to. That's just what it is. So if you're a woman and you're still thinking that men want to be friends with you, and let's just say you have a lot of guy friends, just know a lot of those men, in the right opportunity, if you had said the right thing, they would take advantage and they would sleep with you. And a lot of women think that, oh yeah, they just want to be friends with me. They're just cool. They're just cool. Go ahead and test them. If they're truly friends, ask them and be genuine. Be like, all right, I want to sleep with you. Will you be willing to sleep with me? And of course, a friend should say no. But one thing you'll find out is those men that you think are your friends, they're not your friends. They're opportunists. That's what it is at the end of the day. All right. Getting into the next one. How do I become so attractive to women to where they will gossip with their girlfriends about me? Like I said, a lot of those things that I've mentioned already. If you already have a lot of those things fulfilled, you're already going to kind of be in that type of conversation, right? That type of conversation is going to be. You just got to be a person who's, I'm not gonna say defiant, but it's damn near defiant, bro. You got to kind of go against some of the things in which, and this is going for women that are hyper attracted to you. They're gonna respond very very well when you're not acting the ways in which other men would truly act. And of course, some of the things that I'm saying, and I want to be very very clear with this. It's all nuanced, right? It's gonna work in some situations and it's not gonna work in some situations. But at the end of the day, if a woman's super attracted to you, a lot of these things that I said today you can get away with, right? And that's just what it is. So it's understand that there's nuance involved as well. So getting into the next one of the biggest misconceptions that I see in dating, and more importantly, when it comes to men's perception of how they want to go ahead and treat a woman, is they think that giving a lot of presents and a lot of attention and a lot of compliments to a woman is going to be the best in terms of creating attraction and being able to be favorable or be liked by this woman. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I really truly believe, and I've implemented this, and I've seen the result of this. Women only truly appreciate gifts and compliments when they're scarcely given. So, for example, right, there's going to be the type of guy who says, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful." Every single time he sees them, you're just so beautiful. I can't get over your looks, right? There's one man that does that. Let's just say every day for 2 weeks, right? And then there's a guy who says, "Oh my God, you are so beautiful," once every 2 weeks or twice every 2 weeks, right? So once a week, right? Their response to that compliment is going to be completely different, right? If you're going to say it every single day, eventually she's going to get to the point where, like, ah, thank you. And that's it. She's not going to really think about it after that. She's not going to be like, oh my God, he really said I'm beautiful. They're just not going to think that way. So I think a lot of men think that that's exactly what women want to hear, and that's exactly the way in which they would want to be treated. And that holds some merit, but it's not the entire story, right? You do it for a long enough period of time, they're not going to value the compliment as much, right? But if you're going to be able to scarcely give this, whether this is gifts, whether this is compliments, whether this is whatever, right? If you scarcely give it, when you do give it, it's just going to add that much more value. It's going to hold much more weight, right? So for example, let's just say you don't get a woman flowers very very often. Let's just say you could do it like once a month, right? Or let's just say you do it every week, right? You do it every week, she's not going to respond. She might respond positively, right? Oh, thank you for the flowers. They're so beautiful, this and this and this. If you do it once a month, every time you get flowers for her, she's going to take extra notice. Be like, "Oh, he really got me flowers. How nice." and they're going to be much more appreciative of that. So I like a woman who's very, very appreciative, and the only way that she can be the most appreciative that she possibly can be is if it's given in scarcity. So that's just what it is, or scarcely rather. I have a good amount more. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments. I know I've said a lot, and I do got to get through a whole lot. But at the end of the day, if you disagree with some of the things that I have to say, feel free to leave it in the comments. I'm definitely interested to see what you guys have to say, man. That's for damn sure. So give me 1 second. All right, let me get back to it. This is something that I've seen a lot of men recently in this self improvement space that I'm in. I feel like a lot of men, they kind of have this perspective of dating. They don't feel like they're good enough, right? They feel like they need to do more. And to be honest with you, a lot of that is true. I'm not gonna lie to you. A lot of that is true. A lot of that is right. But one of the biggest misconceptions that I've seen that men carry when it comes to getting into the process of talking to women is they feel that they need to have a lot of money before they go ahead and try to talk to women, right? And I do believe that if you're a man and you can get women without money, just imagine what you can do when you have money, right? And I do believe that men that wait, they build themselves up or do whatever they got to do in order to be attractive to women, right? Those men lead differently. And what I mean by that is this, right? Let's just say, for example, you have a guy who's 18, 19, 20, right? Who doesn't have money, who doesn't have that much status, who is working on himself, right? And who's still talking to women, right? He's obviously not the most attractive mate that she possibly can have, but let's just say he still is able to get women, right? When he's 30, 40, whatever, right? And has all the other aspects that make a man attractive, he's going to be that much more attractive. Now you have the same guy who says, "You know what? I'm going to put off talking to women. I'm going to put off experience with women, and I'm just going to work on myself and whatever, right?" That man at 30 or 40 years old or however old he is, when he decides to step into the game, when he has all these other things that are like, he has the money, he has the status, and all these things, and now when he gets to talking to women, he doesn't have experience with women. He doesn't understand how women work. He doesn't understand how to truly treat women. He doesn't understand a lot of those things. He's going to lean on what he has as his strengths, and his strengths might be money. So therefore, maybe he's going to buy her a bunch of things, and that's the way in which he leads instead of leading in a way that the other guy did, which the other guy led by just being maybe a good person or being very, very charismatic or being funny or being good with women or being good with just talking to people, right? The other guy is going to have those missing traits that truly make a man attractive, that truly make him personable, right? That is why I recommend, as a man, whether you're young, whether you're old, get experience with women at the end of the day, right? Don't have this mindset of, oh, I need this, I need to have a lot of money before I go ahead and try to get women, right? The most valuable skill that you can have is to be able to get women without money. If you're able to master that, imagine when you have money. That's what I'm saying. So the men that lead with money, they don't do that very, very well with women. In general, they don't, right? Yes, she's just gonna look at you like you're a wallet, man. Like you're a little card, man. Like you're a credit card or something, man. That's exactly the way she's gonna perceive you. She's gonna perceive you as somebody who's a means to an end in terms of buying her stuff, as opposed to seeing that the true good character that is the person who's charismatic, the person who's personable, the person who's funny or who's whatever, right? That's the type of person that you want them to see you as, right? And a lot of those men who put off talking to women, they don't develop that side that is very, very important that women truly, truly want, right? Of course, like I said, of course women want men with money. Of course women want men with status and things like that. But it is much more important to get wherever you're at to get experience with women. It doesn't matter. Where are some good places I can talk to women? That is a good question. I would highly recommend. I would highly recommend social situations, like maybe like parties, the club. More likely to recommend like the gym, right? There's gonna be certain situations where it's better than others, right? Maybe at the grocery store, depending on the situation, right? I would highly recommend waiting until a woman gives you what I call choosing signals, right? This is going to be certain subtle signs, whether this is eye contact, whether this is body language, whether this is coming up to you and talking to you, that she's actually attracted to you. That is going to be the best opportunity that you can have um, when it comes to going ahead and approaching a woman. I would highly recommend tapping in with episode number 212 of my podcast, where I explain women and female nature. I explain choosing signals when they're attracted to you, what they will do, what they will think about, and basically where you can go from there. Basically understanding them a little bit better. So yeah. Getting into another one. This is another one that I want to mention because I did this. There's just so many good ones here, man. So getting into the next one. One of the biggest misconceptions about dating and attraction is you need to be 6 foot in order to have any type of success with women, right? Obviously, there's this narrative in society. I think it's one of the foolish things that has came out um, since there has been social media, right? That women are obviously women are objectively men that are taller are going to be more attractive. We all know this as men. We all know this. If you're 5'3" as a man, if you were 6'3", you'd be much better off at getting women. We all know this, but at the end of the day, height isn't everything, and we all know this too. Height isn't everything, right? So what I mean by that is this: if height isn't everything, a woman who's 5'2", 5'3", even shorter than that, 5'5", whatever the height is. I'm not gonna say whatever the height is. Most women can't. They don't know height like men do, right? Growing up, I had always paid attention to people's height, and I could guess within 2 inches how tall that person is just by looking at them, right? So one thing that I've noticed with women is since they don't know height, they're just attracted to attractive men. That's what it is at the end of the day. And height definitely does play somewhat of a factor, but there is, oh, he's tall enough for me, right? Consciously or unconsciously. I'm gonna give you an example of that right now. Yes, like I said, women are attracted to men who are attractive. Most women can't gauge height unless they're like 5'8", 5'9". Then they'll be able to tell, oh, okay, I can gauge a little bit more height. He's a few inches taller than me. He's probably about 6 foot, or he's probably 6'3", or whatever how tall he is, right? So with that being said, I want to make this very, very clear. I've had this one experience with this woman. She was shorter, right? She goes, she was highly, highly attracted to me. Very, very attractive. She was maybe like 5'1", 5'2", something like that, right? And she had asked me, "How tall are you?" And me knowing women, right? They don't know what height is. They don't know how tall somebody is, right? That's why they ask, right? They can't gauge height that well. And I said, "You know what? Guess how tall I am." And obviously she's really attracted to me. And I understand that women have this narrative that, oh, if he's 6 foot, he's tall and he's good looking guy, or he's attractive, right? So she goes, "Oh, I think you're 6 foot." I said, "You're right. Am I 6 foot? Hell no, I'm not 6 foot." But guess what? I understand that women are attracted to men who are attractive. So if she thinks I'm 6 foot, who am I to go ahead and correct her? She thinks I'm attractive. And unfortunately that is the superficial metric that a lot of women judge men based off of in today's society, right? That's why I don't recommend dating apps. If you're not 6 foot on dating apps, you're cooked, right? You're not going to get that many matches. If you put 6 foot, take the same guy who looks the exact same. One guy's 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", and the other guy's 6 foot, 6'1". They're going to get different. They're going to get drastically different results, right? So yes, I had let her run with the narrative. I'm 6 foot. Yeah, go ahead and believe that. But at the end of the day, I understood. She's just attracted to guys that are attractive. She thinks that I'm attractive. It doesn't even matter. It honestly didn't even matter if I said I'm not 6 foot, because at the end of the day, she's still attracted to me. So it doesn't matter. So yes, I think that's very, very interesting. That just because you're not 6 foot, it doesn't mean you're cooked in dating. That's for damn sure. Like I said, if you're like 5'3", man, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. You need to work on your everything else. All right, hold up. Give me 1 second. Let me read some of these comments. They like men with a little bit of edge, adventures. Exactly. 100%. 100%. What if I don't get choosing signals since I'm fat and I want to get better with them? So how should I do that if that happens? Like I said, if you have recognized weaknesses, you should constantly and you should concentrate on them as becoming strengths eventually. I'm cooked. No, I don't think you're cooked. I don't think you're cooked, bro. No, there's at the end of the day, one thing I want to make very, very clear is you're not cooked. When it comes down to it at the end of the day, if you work on yourself enough, nobody's cooked. I've seen men who are not that good looking with women that are really, really good looking. And that goes to show you everything. If you work on if you have money, you have status, and you're trying your best to get in shape, and at the end of the day, you're trying to you actually have some type of ambition, women are attracted to all those things. If you're a woman, here's the thing. Here's how you know you're cooked. If you're a woman and you're ugly and fat, you're cooked. There's no coming back. There's no coming back, okay? But if you're a man and you're maybe you're not that attractive and you're overweight, you can still come back. You could still be a 6 and a 7. I'm telling you. I really do believe that. You can still be a 6, and a 6 is good enough to still get some women. I'm telling you. So, you're not cooked. If you're a woman and you're fat and you're ugly, you're cooked. There's no coming back. You'll never get a high value man. That's just what it is at the end of the day. So there's still you gotta have some faith. You gotta have some faith in yourself. Okay, you gotta have some faith. But yes, Anthony, yeah, you already know what time it was. I knew this story was coming, and it's still funny. Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it, man. All right, getting into the next one. This is going to be a misconception that I see women have when it comes to dating and attraction. That I think it's one of the biggest and silliest fallacies that I've ever seen women believe, and I've seen this time and time again um, through conversations that I've had with women about men, and more importantly, I've seen it in a few podcasts when women are brought onto the podcast. The host usually asks them a few questions, and you can kind of get to gauge exactly how some women think, of course. And one of the biggest misconceptions that they have is that all men have an abundance of sexual access, and this is farthest from the truth, especially in today's society. So, yes, they have this perception that all men can get sex, and they have this perception because they have they have and they're speaking from the experience that they're going through. So what they're going through is maybe they haven't worked on themselves that much. Maybe they're just an okay 6 or 7, right? Or maybe they're a 5 and they're still getting some men's attention, right? They're still getting men that talks to them, or they'll still get a lot of men who will want to sleep with them, right? Women, they think that's the inverse. They think that men who are 4s and 5s are still sleeping with women, when in reality, the men who are 4s and 5s are not sleeping with any women at all, right? So women have this perception, and they can't help but to see it from their own perspective, right? They think men have it the same way. That's farthest from the truth. Men don't have it the same way. And especially in today's society, if you're a below average man, you're probably not sleeping with women. And the dating marketplace is flipped right now. If you're a 9 or 10 in men, you're sleeping with all the women for the most part. If you're 8, 9, and 10, you're sleeping with most of the women, right? The guys that are the 3s, 4s, 5s, they're pretty much the woman that you would be sleeping with before social media. They're sleeping with the 8s, 9s, and 10s, 7, 8s, 9s, and 10s. That's just what it is. So obviously, but here's the thing: as a dude, you need to be working on yourself, and you could at least. It doesn't matter what you look like. If you put in enough work, if you're in the gym, if you're working on your looks, if you take care of your hygiene and all that, you can at least get to a 6, and 6 is good enough to still get some women, and hopefully, more importantly, get a wife for sure. I'm responding to Anthony saying there's been dudes at the gym that are 4s walking around with 9s, so he can't be cooked. Exactly, I see this all the time. And here's the thing: maybe even it's not a 4, maybe it's a 5, maybe it's a 5. I've seen 5s, dudes that are 5s walking around with 8s and 9s. I've seen it. It happens. Hopefully, maybe it could happen for you. But here's the thing: if you work on yourself, it definitely can happen. I wouldn't rule it out at the end of the day. But yes, I'm gonna reiterate the same point. Not all men have an abundance of sexual access. Only a very, very few men have an abundance of sexual access. So yes, I have a few more left, and then I'm gonna go ahead and end it off. Thanks, I appreciate it, my man. No problem. Hey, like I said, that's a good goal, man. That's a good goal. Hey, it's gonna take as long as it needs to take, but at the end of the day, all you have is time, and all you have is the ability to work on yourself. That's what it is at the end of the day, man. Getting into the next ones, the biggest misconception that people, and more importantly, men have about dating is they think that dating apps and DMs are the best way to get women. This is farthest from the truth, especially if you're a man. If you're a man and you're slightly below average, don't go on dating apps, don't go on DMs unless you have a lot of followers, or yeah, unless you have a lot of social status. There's no point of going on dating apps, there's no point of DMs at all. So that isn't it. That isn't a good way to get women. The best way to get women is obvious, right? It is through personal in-person interactions, right? That is the only way that I would recommend any man go about dating in general. If you're a good-looking guy who would thrive on dating apps, just imagine if you were in person, how much you would thrive. So, yes, you can thrive. A lot of people, a lot of men nowadays, they have this perception that they can thrive within dating without needing to approach women, right? They take this very, very feminine and very passive approach to dating because it's scary. Of course, it's scary. That's part of being a man. You go into the unknown, right? That's part of being a man at the end of the day. But trying to put this off, or don't approach women, or taking this approach of, you know what, I'm not going to talk to women, or I'm just going to go on dating apps or do DMs. That is a very, very feminine, passive approach to dating. And if you take that approach, just know it's not going to be as favorable as it could be. So I would highly recommend in-person interactions. You need to go ahead and approach as a man. It doesn't matter where you are in the journey. You need that. You need those skills. You need those. You need that knowledge. You need all of that experience can give you. And if you fail to go ahead and do this, or refuse to do this, or get too anxious, or whatever it is, that's just a signal, bro. That's a signal. If you can't fulfill the most basic and fundamental, uh, if you can't fulfill one of the most basic and fundamental things to the human experience, which is talking to the opposite gender, you need to work on yourself. And here's the thing: there's nothing wrong with that. There's really nothing wrong with that. But that's just what it is. Everybody has to do it at the end of the day, I believe. And if you don't, you're accepting defeat. I personally don't accept defeat. So yeah, like I said, you gotta do it anyways, bro. You got, whether you're doing it scared, whether you're doing it anxious, you gotta do it. There's no way around it. It's either that it's either that or miss out on one of the most fundamental interactions in the human experience, which there's no point in doing that. Literally, that's all you've lived for. You're telling me every single person in your bloodline has been able to reproduce and you can't? Come on, man. Come on. Everybody in your bloodline has been able to sleep with women, and you are the one loser that can't? Come on now, man. Work on yourself, man. You're better than that. So yeah, that's what it is at the end of the day. I have a few more. All right, this is another big misconception that I've seen women have when it comes to dating. One of the biggest misconceptions that I've seen women have is they think that the same thing that attracts women is the same thing that attracts men. So I'm going to give you an example. There's women that go around saying, "Well, I have this career, or I make this amount of money. How come men are not? How come they don't like me, right? Or I have this degree, or I have this level of IQ. Why is there not more men that are drawn to me? Why am I not talking to more men?" And it's because they have this notion in their head that, okay, well, what makes a man attractive is he needs to, have some social status. Maybe he's well educated. Maybe he's making a lot of money. Maybe he has a lot of social status. I don't know if I said that one already, but he has all of these things, all of these markers that make a man attractive. So they go ahead and say, you know what? If I work on these things, I'm going to be more attractive as a woman. And men are going to want to go ahead and flock to me because I have all of these things, right? And that is not the case. It is a huge, huge misconception, right? What makes men attractive, what makes women attractive, two different things, right? Two very, very different things. And to conflate the two is to have a huge misunderstanding on what the other gender truly likes. So, yes, this is for sure. Getting into the next one, another misconception that women have, or that men have, is I don't even know how to put this one. Give me 1 second. Hold, let me think about this. Oh, hold up, man. Hold up, man. How do I want to phrase this? How do I want to phrase it? Who is this a big misconception for? Hmm. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. Hold, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, man. I think this is a misconception for. I'm gonna say men. This is a misconception for men. Um, one of the biggest misconceptions that men have is they think that women date men that are on their same level. And what I mean by that is this, right? If you look at the way in which women select a mate, right? They don't try to select men that are just as good as they are in their own eyes, right? Usually women like men who are better than them in certain capacities, in certain traits. I'm gonna say that women usually they want to date at the very least just as good as them, if not better. So what I mean by that is this, right? They want a man who makes more money than them, has more social status than them, who's stronger than them, who's smarter than them, who is all of these things, right? Who's taller than them. They literally want men that are better than them in certain aspects, of course. That is what they're drawn to. Women are what we call hypergamists. They date up and across dominance hierarchies. They will go for men that they think that are better than them. So therefore, if a woman, and any woman that has ever dated you, just know that she in her mind perceived that you were better than her. That's what it is. In some type of capacity. Or at the end of the day, if she didn't believe that, she wouldn't even deal with you. She would just go date a man who she thinks is better than her at the end of the day. So that's what it is. A lot of women will think that's very distasteful, the thing in which I just said, but at the end of the day, I didn't make it this way. I'm nothing more than an observer just like you are, right? I'm just speaking from my observation. That's all it is. All right, getting into the next one. Another misconception that women have about dating is they think men like women who challenge them, right? This has been one of the funniest things that I've got to experience looking back, and one of the most ridiculous things that I think women truly fully have conviction with when they speak is they think that being a challenge to men is going to draw more men in. And what I mean by that is this. When you're dealing with a woman and when you get to talking to a woman, you can kind of there are certain archetypes that a woman will fall into. And one of the archetypes that are very, very masculine and that challenge men a lot is this what I would call a brat archetype. They fulfill this brat archetype in a way where they're gonna want to have this more of a push pull type of dynamic when it comes to dating. So therefore, maybe they're not going to be as nice, or maybe they're not going to be as complimenting, or they're gonna seem a little bit more disinterested, right? They're still attracted to you, but they're gonna act like they're not attracted to you, or they're gonna be a little bit mean, right? They're gonna be a little bit pushy, right? Or they're gonna be a little bit more aggressive, right? But they're still attracted to you. But a lot of those women, and I hate to say it like this, but they want to be put in their place. That is what they like, right? Like I said, I'm only speaking from my own observations, and I've seen other men talk about types of women like this that are this brat archetype, and men don't like challenges. At the end of the day, we like a little bit of challenge. Everybody likes a little bit of challenge, right? But at the end of the day, a lot of men really perceive these women who try to be this brat archetype as uncalled for nuisances. Shout out to Anthony with that quote. These women are uncalled for nuisances. They're headaches. They're unnecessary. They're playing this hard to get game. In reality, some men do like it and some men will play the game, but at the end of the day, men that know what they want, that's the last thing they want to deal with. They don't want to deal with no damn headache. They want a woman who's kind and soft, not a woman who's trying to play like she's not attracted when in reality we all know she's attracted. It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. Another misconception, I'm gonna run through these a little bit quick. Another misconception that women have about men is they think that if they went ahead and approached men, that it wouldn't necessarily go that great, and that's farthest from the truth, right? Women rarely approach. If a woman approaches you, you got lucky that day. Now that's all I'm gonna say, man. You got lucky. I've got approached like damn near none times in my life. Maybe once in my whole life. And actually, once or twice in my whole life, right? But at the end of the day, women don't approach that often. And usually, if you're a guy watching this, if a woman approached you, she's already telling you that she's really attracted to you. Because most women don't go out of their way to go ahead and do that. So most women think that if they go ahead and approach a woman, that they're going to get rejected. For the most part, you guys are going to get a favorable result. So therefore, if you're a woman watching this, approach more men, please, and just see what happens. Even if he's really, really attractive, he's probably going to say yes. So most men are gonna love it. I'm gonna be honest with you. There's gonna be very, very unless he has a girlfriend. For the most part, if you're a decent looking woman, if you're even a 6 or a 7, he's gonna say yes. He's gonna say yeah, you can take my number down and all that. So that's what it is at the end of the day. One more thing I want to mention. I have this other one that I'm trying to fully internalize still, but one of the biggest misconceptions that I see in the manosphere right now, right, in the self improvement space is there's an overemphasis, and I do believe it is a misconception. There's an overemphasis on the way in which a man looks, as it's being super, super important. And one thing that you must realize is that there is more to a man's look. There's more than a man's look that is qualified to be attractive, right? There's going to be a certain way that you carry yourself, or women like a bunch of different things, and I would say physical looks is probably maybe top five, maybe fifth in terms of importance of attractiveness. Obviously, for men, it's probably top two or top three. And I feel like men have this overemphasis on how they look, especially in today's society. Of course, you don't want to be ugly, and of course, you should be working on the way in which you look. Everybody should be doing that at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, it's not as important as a lot of men are trying to make it seem. And they aren't everything for men. If you're a woman, that shit is a lot. It's a whole lot. It's like 60%, 60, 70% for women, right? For men, it's probably a smooth 25%. 25% of importance. For women, it's about 60 to 70%. So, as we were mentioning earlier, if you're a 5 or 6 as a guy, I've seen 5 or 6 on a scale to 1 to 10 of attractiveness for men. I've seen those type of men still thrive and still get 7, 8s, and 9s with women, right? For whatever reason, well, not for whatever reason, right? Women are attracted to more than just looks, right? That's what it is at the end of the day. So you're not cooked, man. You're not cooked. That's what I'm saying. So looks aren't everything, man. Looks aren't everything. I'm not gonna say they're not nothing. And if you're not working on your looks, then of course that they're still gonna mean something. But at the end of the day, you still want to improve your looks. At the end of the day, I'm not gonna say don't improve your looks because it's not important. I'm gonna say it's not as important as most people believe it is for men. Like I said, you have social status, you have money, you have purpose, you have your being charismatic, you have your ability to care, you have your ability to protect, you have so many things. You have so many things that are much more important and that women are attracted to, of course. Getting into the next one, I don't even know if this is even worth mentioning. One of the biggest misconceptions one of the biggest misconceptions within dating and attraction that I think is for both men and women is they think that the way in which one would cheat is for the same reason. So, what I mean by that is this. I think that men and women they truly cheat for different reasons, right? So, for example, or they're more offended to cheating in a different way. So, I'll go ahead and explain, right? So, if you're a man and a woman is sleeping with another man, that is going to be the highest form of treason. That is cheating for damn sure. That's cheating. That's like the worst thing a woman could do is sleep with another man. But here's the thing: if you're a woman and your man sleeps with another woman, it's not as bad. It's truly not as bad as it the other way around. So what I mean by that is this, right? A woman truly gets way more offended. Let's just say, for example, you're providing for another woman, or you're taking care of another woman, or you're trying to better another woman, and you're spending a lot of time with her. Maybe you're giving your time, attention, and energy to another woman in a certain way. She's going to view that literally as as a higher form of treason as opposed to if you actually just slept with that woman. And I think that's very, very interesting. That just goes to show you how different men and women are. And yeah, I would say also the reasons in which they cheat are going to be for different reasons as well, which I think is very, very interesting. And not enough people really talk about this, right? So if men cheat with a woman, or if women cheat with a woman, or if women cheat with a man, there's no form of coming back ever. I'll tell you that right now, right? There's no when a woman cheats on a man, she's already chosen to disconnect completely from that man, and she's done it months, even weeks, or shit, even years ago, right? But if a man cheats on a woman with another woman, of course, and sleeps with her, a lot of those men still report to have a level of they feel a level of regret. When women cheat, they don't feel as like they don't feel as regretful, right? When men cheat, they feel so regretful, and a lot of these men still love the woman that they cheated on. And I think that's very, very interesting, and not enough people truly talk about that enough. I think it's just mind blowing, and I think it truly is one of the biggest misconceptions about dating and attraction is men and women are just they're just different, man. They're different species, damn near, and that's what it is at the end of the day. So those are all the dating and attraction misconceptions that I have for you today. I appreciate all the engagement. Hopefully, you took something from this podcast, and if you didn't, congratulations. You're very very thorough when it comes to your misconceptions or your knowing of misconceptions that most people have with dating and attraction. Of course, there are plenty other more. If you have some that I didn't mention that you think is worth mentioning, feel free to go ahead and leave it in the comments. But other than that, this was episode 219 of the Life of a Champ podcast, episode 10 of the Dating and Attraction series. That's all I have for you guys today. Next podcast is going to be on Thursday. I'm going to be doing another reaction, maybe music live stream on Monday, so tap in with that for sure. And I got one more episode of the Dating and Attraction series for you guys. After that, I'll be shortly after releasing my dating and attraction course. If there's something that you truly have any questions with that you want to ask me one-on-one, I will have that available as well. So other than that, that's all I have to say for today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. I appreciate your time and attention. And other than that, make sure you go and follow me Twitch, TikTok, Rumble at Life of a Champ podcast on every single platform. Also on Spotify as well. But other than that, I'll leave you guys off with the podcast motto. Fellas, out here, we don't just work around here, man. We outwork. So make sure you outwork these motherfuckers because you know that I am, and you know that everyone else around me is as well. Y'all have a good rest of your night. Tap in with the next podcast on Thursday. And you're not cooked, man. Work on yourself, man.